Good evening once again. And, so this is actually, I think, as they say, you save the best for the last. So this is, I think, what is going to be the grand finale of the event, because we take the piece of technology and how it is going to empower supply chain and fulfillment in the coming years. And I think it's probably, so my meeting backstage with my panel over here with me has been extremely insightful for me as an editor, because I've come to know of things which would probably be not just game changing but world changing, from not just fulfillment from the world's perspective, if you look at it. And I think that's really what is required today. And so I met this gentleman once from a university of Wharton University, and he said that Silicon Valley is all about changing the world. So whatever they do, they want to think of changing the world. I think that's what technology is really all about. So it's going to change the way fulfillment and deliveries are thought and, in fact, delivered at the last mile. So welcome to the panel out here. So I'll sort of throw away some questions to the panel, which they can sort of give their insights on. And after the second questions, we're very happy to take on some questions from the audience in terms of what are their views and if something they'd like to share or ask our panelists. So I'll start with you, Ajay. So Ajay he's got about 15 years experience, and particularly in logistics and supply chain. And I think the key areas that he looks at is warehousing and fulfillment, and the way it is done today and where it is looking to go forward from there. So, so technology in warehouse is something we've been talking about for some time, and it's happening in silos, I would say. But it's not as if the world is really aware about it. So how do you think technology will efficiently intelligently come within the warehouse? What are your views on that?
Thanks, Ritu. So if you look at it typically within your overall supply chain, right, just to sort of take a step back, out of 100% of your supply chain cost, pretty much warehousing on a broad basis represents about 30% of your total cost. The second 20 to 30% comes out of inventory and inventory holding costs, which is a significant portion of money spent by manufacturers in holding inventory to supply to their distributors, and then the balance 50% goes towards transportation. So if you really look at it within the four walls of the warehouse, there's a significant opportunity to drive down almost 50% of your overall supply chain costs. And what I'd like to sort of present to you really is sort of a service provider's perspective, because especially with the advent of e-commerce, there's been a huge push towards outsourcing, and people have realized that it's becoming more and more difficult for them to meet SLAs as well as reach efficiency within their warehouse, and which is why people are outsourcing that. So as an outsource provider, right, there are 3 or 4 things that we are tasked with and 3 or 4 things that we're expected to deliver. And technology can play a significant role in terms of helping us deliver this. So first and foremost, people outsource to get a better customer experience, right? So end of the day, SLAs need to get met, customers need to get delighted. The second thing is inventory accuracy, and that's a major problem in India. There's a lot of pilferage that happens within warehouses. There's a lot of theft. There's a lot of miskeeping of books, which results in inventory accuracy, which also then affects customers because they place orders and then you don't find the product within the warehouse, or you have products within the warehouse, but it's not reflecting online, and therefore that's a missed sale. The third expectation is, as a service provider, we need to do it more efficiently and drive down transaction costs for the consumer. And the fourth expectation is we need to help tool the customer with data and information to drive down the overall inventory holding costs and make them more efficient. So I'll talk a little bit about how these 4 key parameters can be achieved with the use of technology within the warehouse. So first and foremost, right, from a system point of view, today in India, there aren't too many sophisticated warehouse management systems in play. And so this is one area where a solid WMS or a solid warehouse management system can help companies or help service providers like us meet these 4 deliverables. First and foremost, when it comes down to driving transaction costs, typically today, a lot of companies that are managing their fulfillment, moment an order comes, they send someone out into the warehouse to pick it. And that And then what happens is they pick it, they pack it, they spend a whole bunch of resources, and then the package is sitting for almost 10, 12 hours waiting for the courier. A good warehouse management system will allow you to look at the cutoff times of couriers. It then helps you batch those orders and then sends you out into the warehouse to pick those orders to meet your cutoff times with the courier. So that's one significant way where technology today in the warehouse can help you optimize your resources to deliver your fulfillment at a lower cost. The second thing is on space. Space within the warehouse is, especially when you're talking about large warehouses, when you've got multiple racks, there's a significant opportunity to lose out space and to have pockets of space which are available, and then very quickly companies realize that they've run out of space. Good warehouse software, in terms of what we employ, allows us to basically, the system itself figures out where space is available and it directs you to put it in that space. So therefore, you're able to optimize the overall space within the warehouse. The second important thing, what that also does, is that it helps you improve accuracy when you're picking orders. Because today, people put, especially when in India, what happens is workers they're asked to put something away and they just put it at the most convenient location as opposed to where they're supposed to put it. So a good system allows you to manage that workforce to ensure that the product is in the right place. Even if the worker puts it in a different place and tags it, you're still going to be able to find the product. So that's the second way where a good warehouse management system allows you to optimize the space within your warehouse, as well as ensures that your putting is correct. It's garbage in, garbage out. If you don't know where you've put it, you're not going to be able to find it. The third thing is on inventory accuracy, especially when you have expensive products in the warehouse. There's always a temptation for people to pilfer products. So you really need a very, very robust system to be able to help you keep track of your inventory and to ensure that there's no pilferage. So the systems that a good warehouse management system will allow you to sort of configure and manage your, what we call it is called cycle counting. It basically allows you to configure and say these products are expensive or these products are pilfered most or most likely to be pilfered. It then sends out messages to the inventory team to specifically count those products or follow specific pickers who are assigned on those routes. And then these guys go out into the warehouse, they count, and they don't know how much is actually expected there. So they do a count and put it in the system. And then the system at the back end calculates to see whether that's the right amount of inventory or not, and then it flags it to the management. So these are some of the things which a company can employ when you're at scale to be able to effectively manage the warehouse and be able to meet the 3 or 4 key parameters that your clients expect you to.
If I were to talk of a warehouse, like picking it up from where Ajay left off, so essentially, if you divide the entire warehouse in a set of sub-activities, then there's a lot of room for automation or mechanization that is currently open. So right from receiving the items at the time of inbound to taking it to the racks or counting the products or doing a quality inspection or picking it up from the racks or packaging it to sorting it to some sort of a logic, whether you want to sort it to a courier partner or you want to sort it to a city, depending on the kind of logic that you're running. There's a lot of room for automation or mechanization, like you call it. So essentially, I'll just pick it up from where Ajay left off. So when we are saying that the system would be able to direct the product to the right shelf or the rack, given the volume of the product. So that volume needs to be captured using some machine. That machine is a basic volumetric machine, a weighing and dimensioning machine, on which you keep a product and it will give you the weight and dimension. And it's a simple machine, and if you deploy that, then you probably get in more control of using the warehouse space better. Now, there's a notion with respect to mechanization and automation that it is only suited for higher scale warehouses or fulfillment centers. There are a bunch of semi-automation products available which are relevant to lower throughput service centers as well. So essentially, if you look at the kind of typical problems that are currently there in the supply chain, then the top ones that you could list off the top of your head would be, let's say, rising labor costs, or availability of less and less time to service an order, or the flexibility that is expected of a supply chain in terms of, let's say, meeting cutoff times, or let's say you have a shipment which is committed for tomorrow, or which is committed for 6-hour delivery, or which is committed for 2-hour delivery, and there is a need for differentiating these orders in your supply chain. Or let's say, what are the other top problems that could be there in a supply chain apart from these? Let's work with these only, top of my head. Let's say accuracy is another problem, wherein the cost of errors is increasing day by day. So earlier, if you committed an error in a supply chain, then probably the customer would still stick to you. Nowadays, if you've delivered one wrong product to a customer, then there's a greater likelihood that the customer would defect. So the cost of error in terms of losing a customer is increasing day by day. So all of these points to, requiring to set up a supply chain operation which is much more consistent, which is much more flexible, and all of these could be achieved through a range of automation products which are available in the market today. Some of which I talked about. Let's say a typical sortation system. If you deploy a manual resource to sort packages, he would sort, let's say, 300 packages in an hour. And if you deploy a machine, then the machine could sort 7,000 packets in an hour, depending on the machine that you're investing in. So such a significant jump in productivity is what you're looking at if you deploy the right set of equipment. And there are sorting solutions available for 3,500 packets an hour. There are sorting solutions available for 1,000 packets an hour, and so on. So there's a complete range of automation solutions available, and you can choose one which is more relevant to your use case.
Logistics is changing because of that key change, that now when your package leaves the warehouse, logistics is ending at the end of the customer home, not at your shopkeeper's place, right? Now when logistics ends at a customer's home, two things happen. There's a huge amount of variability. When you're delivering to a shop from a warehouse, every day you're delivering to the same 600 shops, right? If you're delivering to a customer, even at the same throughput, you're delivering to 600 new customers every day who are located in a new area of the city. Second thing is, a shop owner is at his shop the entire day. The expectation of service quality he has with logistics is completely different with you. You would not be happy if the guy who's bringing in your food is smelling of sweat, right? So leave beyond time. You even care about grooming, right? So now what happens to the package is primarily dependent by the fact that it is reaching to the customer who has a far higher expectation of service level, and we don't know where it is. So a lot of traditional methods of doing your last mile dispatch using, static routes, pin code divisions, they're falling through. Because now you have a decentralized warehouse which only caters to a total of 5 pin codes. So you cannot just classify packages based on pin codes. Previously, you could tell the customer and he was happy that we will bring you the package by this date. Then people started telling him, we will bring you the package today. Now he wants to know which hour will you bring me the package so I can decide whether I should schedule my meeting or not, right? So now I need to solve a way more complex problem because of high variability in a manner which gives me way higher marks than what, if this was an examination question, your question has gone tougher and your answer also needs to be tougher, which means none of your typical ways of doing last mile fulfillment work, right? Like, you just can't do something incrementally better. You need to shift the way you do it. And that's where companies like Locus come in. What we do is we completely automate your last mile dispatch. Our big, hairy, audacious goal is that, once the package is ready from the warehouse to be dispatched to where it's going, there shouldn't be any human involvement. We are confident by the end of this decade, that is 2020, we will remove all human decisions from it. So right now, Locus is deployed in production, and some of the bigger names that you would know of, like, some of the speakers also of companies here before, like Urban Ladder, Lenscards, Big Basket, all of them use us to figure out which of their trucks or which of their delivery boys will pick up what package, will go to which customer in what order. This decision is not being made by a human. This decision is being made by a software in India on ground. So definitely, you have deployments of this throughout the world. Like as a small company, we have deployments in Tokyo, Indonesia, London, New York, right? And there are other competitors as well, and they also have deployments. So, but this is effectively what's happening in your last mile. It's not a human which is now deciding what happens with that package. He's merely the agent who does the transfer. The decision making has moved to a centralized unit, which instead of factoring in 4 factors, probably factors 400 factors, including weather conditions, to decide what happens with that package, to bring in 3 things. There are 3 key axes of logistics, if you look at it. Consistency, right? If there is anybody over from logistics, right, I can sum up their entire problem in 1 sentence. That is, Manoj kahan hai? Right? Manoj could be your dispatcher. Wo subah nahi aaya, for 2 hours your packages won't go. So you are much better off using something from a Falcon automation to sort your packages, right? If it goes to a warehouse which is completely managed by Manoj, he will not open. So you're better off using an Emiza warehouse, right? You know that things will happen with a consistent manner, right? So first thing is consistency. Second thing is efficiency. Okay, now I've made sure that 150 riders will come to my warehouse. They know what this needs to be done. They will have their bags ready. They will go and dispatch it, right? Fine, I've made sure it happens. Now I go to the second order variable. That is, can I make sure it's happening efficiently? Can I make sure it's happening while it's saving my cost? Right? So that's your second order derivative. Your third order derivative is, now that I've made sure it's consistent, it's efficient, is it adhering to what I'm telling to my customer? So is the customer satisfaction increasing? Is this anxiety level lower? Talking about anxiety level, I can assure you, more than politics, our preference for a sports, our preference for a religion, one question that unites everybody else, everybody in this room is, at some point or the other, you have wondered, where is my pizza? Right? You know it's going to come to you in half an hour. You're still anxious about it. Now imagine when you order an Uber, you start your experience with a digital device, right? You click something on your phone. Something happens in the offline world. A car comes, right? Your digital to offline transition is so smooth you never noticed. When you order from Flipkart, you ordered, you click, something's happening on the screen. Great. You made your payment. That's the end of it. 2 days later, your package comes. There's a disconnect, right? And I think that disconnect will get very, very short. So that's broadly to answer, what happens and what will happen to a package once it leaves the warehouse to the customer.
So I think, probably in the last 5 years, if people in B2C companies are here, would remember that, customer acquisition was a really, really big problem that you had to solve. And one of the ways that people would solve is by databases, right? So you would get a name of a person and a number of a person for what, $100, $150, and then you're going to put some people out there and make calls. So that was when the first, economy of, number sharing and customer data started going out. And with e-commerce coming in, today as consumers, we have become, this whole privacy issues become so irrelevant that whenever we actually make an order, your address information, your phone number is actually offline. It's just not online, it's offline. It's printed on a paper, and it can have multiple effects, right? You could have women living in your house, you could have old people living in your house. So what we are doing at Exotel is we are helping last mile companies communicate, and we are disrupting the way telecom is being done in India for the last 5 years. So what we do is basically three things that we help last mile companies with. So the first problem that we solve is, did the delivery guy call the customer at all? Right? So one of the largest problems that last mile companies face is that the customer is complaining and saying, look, I was at home, the delivery boy never came, and the delivery boy is saying that, look, I tried to call the customer, he was never there. So the first problem we try to solve is, we enable the delivery boy to call through a secure phone number so that his mobile number is not shown to the customer and the customer's phone number is not shown to the delivery guy. And while we do this exercise, the 3 benefits that last mile companies are deriving out of this. So one is, how many calls did the delivery guy make? How many calls are being made per delivery? At what time did he make the call and what time did he actually deliver the product? We are making this information of calls available to the last mile company in real time. Earlier, you would need to wait for your monthly bills to come from your telco to figure out what calls did he make and do reimbursements and so on. So that is being made available real time. The second problem we are solving is privacy. So I'm sure many of you would have noticed, on social media, there have been reports on newspaper where delivery boys, unfortunately, have started, it's today a phone number, you are accessible on WhatsApp, you can see the other person's photo, you start pinging them, hey, hi, I delivered to you the other day, how are you guys, and so on. So we are trying to actually solve a very trivial problem, and we have been successful with a lot of last mile companies in terms of protecting the end customer's mobile number and not show it to the delivery guys. And the third one is something which everybody would like to hear is we have actually reduced the expenses which last mile companies do as reimbursements for telephone calls. What is the problem? You cannot control the delivery guy who's probably driving somewhere in Andheri, whether he's calling the customer or his girlfriend through his mobile phone, right? So today now we are able to tell these companies exactly that, look, this is the calls he made to his customers, and this is exactly the amount that you need to reimburse to him. So this is one of the ways that we've been solving. We also are helping last mile companies in real-time information, right? So what are we doing? We have actually made IVR sexy again. Earlier, all of us, when we think about IVR, we are a communication telephony company, right? So IVR has always been this annoying nuisance thing when you call to a bank, you're put on long holds, and so on and so forth. And it's also been proprietary, expensive capital technology. So today we help last mile companies use IVR in new innovative ways that has never been done before. So one example is, last mile companies use Exotel now to make a call automatically on the day of the delivery to check if the customer is available for delivery, right? So there's a nice message which goes out, which is not a computerized message. It says, look, this is a call from X company. You have a parcel from, e-commerce Y. Are you available for delivery today? Press 1 if you're there. Press 2 if you're there tomorrow, or press 3 if you want to reschedule it to the day after tomorrow. We are making this real-time information come back so that that delivery guy does not waste his 40 minutes or 1 minute of commute in traffic to a far-off place and not find the customer there. The other way around, when you're operating with a large fleet of delivery personnel in your team, how are you going to communicate to these guys? How are you going to train them? How are you going to educate them? So we help these companies build innovative quizzes, training programs on telephone call. So just to give you a perspective, India has 950 phones today, and out of which 150 million phones are only smartphones. That means there are around 750 million people who are using feature phones, and we are helping these companies make those feature phones smarter by using our technology.